My name is Kelly Brooke, and I'm 43 years old. I don't have any kids from my second marriage. My husband is a kind man who never misses our monthly dates, no matter how busy he gets. He always keeps his promises. I know I shouldn't compare him to my first husband, but I've never regretted my divorce, and I've never regretted getting remarried. This month is our 8th wedding anniversary. My husband reserved a table at a fancy restaurant with a view of the sea. I thought we were going to have a wonderful time, but then I ran into the last person I wanted to see, Jeremy Clarkson, my ex-husband from 13 years ago. We were about to leave the restaurant after finishing our meal when my husband excused himself to go to the restroom. I was admiring the ocean view from the window, thinking about the beautiful moments my husband and I had spent looking at the sea together. Just then, I heard someone call my name. When I turned around, I saw Jeremy. "Hey, what's so beautiful? Do you think a regular ocean looks nice to someone like you, who's basically broke?" "Jeremy, long time no see. Why are you here?" "Why am I here? I should be asking you that," Jeremy said, sitting down in the chair my husband had been using, looking at me as if I was a joke. I put up with those eyes for a whole decade of our marriage. I never thought I'd run into you here. Can someone like you, who doesn't have much money, really eat at a fancy place like this? Can you even afford it? Or is this a once-in-a-lifetime thing? It's our wedding anniversary. Ah, I see. Poor people can only come to places like this on anniversaries, huh? I come here often, you know. You're still pathetic. Isn't there someone with you? Yeah, there is. I just sent her to pay. You know, handling money is a woman's job. I thought to myself that he was still the same, always belittling women. Then I saw her his lover from 13 years ago. She had aged quite a bit. Her beauty was half of what it used to be, and she looked worn out from life. I guess Jeremy has been living the good life while his wife suffers. You're still wearing shabby clothes, aren't you? Aren't you embarrassed to dress so poorly? Talking to such a terrible man like him makes me feel sick. I turned my eyes toward the restroom, hoping my husband would return soon, and there he was. He had been watching us for a while as I was talking to another man. Seeing the confusion on my face, he approached us. "Excuse me, do you need something from my wife?" "Your wife? This woman is your wife." "Yes, what do you need?" "You also look poor. I guess poor women always remarry poor men." "Please don't be rude. My husband is a very respectable man." Jeremy snorted in disapproval at my response. "Imph, you must be just a useless broke man then." He glared at my husband. I thought to myself, this man really hasn't changed at all. Jeremy was always very selfish. Although he worked for a big company, it was unclear if he was really good at his job. He was good at sucking up to his boss, though. He blamed his mistakes on his juniors and loudly claimed their achievements were because of his guidance. How he managed to climb the corporate ladder is beyond me, but by the time we divorced, he had become a manager. Jeremy always claimed he was an elite employee, but I never thought of him that way. I graduated from a prestigious university, Jeremy would always brag. Not just any university, but one of those special ones. When I was dating him, I believed his exaggerated stories and thought he was really smart. But when we got married, I discovered that was his only real talent. Plus, he constantly put me down, even though I only completed high school. "Your parents were too poor to send you to university, right? But it's good for you. You didn't have the brains for it anyway. If your family had been rich, you would have had to go to university, but it would have been impossible for someone as stupid as you." "My family wasn't poor. I just wanted to start working sooner rather than going to college." Ah, enough with the excuses. You can't stop making excuses, can you? You're an incompetent woman after all. But it's good for women, isn't it? Even if they're incompetent or stupid, as long as they have good looks, they can get by. If they catch a competent man, they can live well. I never thought he would say such things before we got married, so his change after marriage was shocking. Plus, his parents weren't wealthy landowners. His father was just a director, yet he still looked down on anyone he thought was poor. You really can't do anything right. You're bad at cooking, you can't clean, and you can't even have kids. Marrying you was a huge mistake, he would say. It wasn't a physical issue that stopped me from having kids. It was the stress caused by Jeremy. My family always valued being careful with money and appreciating what we had. But when I cooked with radish leaves to save money, he yelled, "Are you trying to feed me trash?" and threw them in the garbage. It made me realize just how different we were. One day, he told me he had a lover. The woman was much younger than he was. He pushed for a divorce, saying it was better for him to remarry a younger woman. I was glad to divorce such a man, so I signed the papers. "Who is this man, Kelly?" my husband asked. "He's my ex-husband, Jeremy Clarkson." "Oh, I see." I had already told my husband about everything Jeremy had said and done to me. It had been a painful 13 years, and I had shared it all with tears. My husband just listened quietly and finally said, "Let's be happy from now on." "You really dared to marry a woman like her? Since you're marrying someone from a poor family, you must be broke too," Jeremy sneered. "Well, maybe, maybe not." "Of course you are. So you're also a broke man, huh? Marrying a poor person means you're broke too, am I right? But why did you divorce such a wonderful person?" "Wonderful? Your eyes must be fooling you. Truly wonderful means having a beautiful wife like mine." He pointed to his wife, who stood there looking embarrassed. "Is that woman your wife?" "Yes, she's beautiful, isn't she? She's actually my boss's daughter." Marrying the boss's daughter definitely helps one climb the career ladder faster. Marrying a broke woman like you probably means you're just a regular employee. Too bad. "A regular employee? I haven't heard that in years," I said. "What are you trying to prove? A low-class guy marrying a low-class woman? It just means you'll both be broke for the rest of your lives. And you think you deserve to eat in a fancy restaurant like this?" "This level of restaurant isn't a problem for us," my husband calmly replied. "Yeah, sure, if that's what you think," Jeremy scoffed. Just then, a waiter passed by, and my husband pulled out a black card, instructing him to settle the bill. Jeremy was surprised by the card, but tried to hide it, snorting again. "Is that a black card? Showing off a card like that here? You're not used to it, are you? You must have borrowed it from someone." "Flashing the card around, but later you'll have to pay back the person who lent it to you, right? I bet you're scared to spend money in a place like this. It's all just an act." Funny thing to say. Who would lend their card, I wonder? No matter how naive someone is. "They wouldn't lend out a card like this," my husband replied. "How would you know that, Jeremy? You shouldn't say such insulting things," I added. "What's insulting? I'm just stating the truth. There's no way you could be wealthy if you married a poor woman like her." "My wife is poor, you say?" "Yes, that's right. Her family's place is a rundown, one-floor home. You know that, right? Or maybe you were too embarrassed to visit her home, so you went to a family restaurant instead." Meeting her parents at a family restaurant for a marriage proposal is unheard of, but for poor people like you, it's probably normal. "A family restaurant, huh? The fact that you thought of that means you must have done it yourself, right? If you hadn't experienced it, you wouldn't have thought of it." "What are you talking about? I'm not short on money. I wouldn't do something so cheap." "Yet you came up with it. I never would have thought of that," my husband said, then turned to me. "Right, Kelly? What about you?" "Well, I think I'd like to go to a family restaurant occasionally, but we rarely get the chance," I replied. "Exactly, you're lying. When you were with me, you were happy to go to family restaurants." "That's because I had never really been to one before." "Oh, I bet. You sure talk big now, coming to a fancy restaurant like this, acting all important." "Maybe that's you. It seems like you don't fit in this kind of place." "What? You think I don't fit in here? There's no way I'm out of place. You're the one who doesn't belong here. Do you even know who I am?" Why would I know you? If you want me to remember you, just become famous, my husband replied calmly. I am well known, but I guess it's impossible for someone like you to know me. You think I'm just a regular employee? I'm a manager, not just an employee. A manager, huh? Is that supposed to be impressive? Just then, the chauffeur arrived, greeted my husband politely, and said, Sir, your car is ready. Thank you. Jeremy looked confused. What's going on? Oh, you're probably just the president of some small company. I work for a major corporation, the Brook Group, and I'm a manager there. Oh, so you're still just a manager. Excuse me, you think you're important, but staying as a manager at your age won't get you far. What? This man works at our company? Yes, he's been with us for a long time. What do you mean our company? You're just an office lady from a small business. That's right, but I don't have kids or any reason to quit my job. So you can't have kids? I knew it. Something's wrong with you. Hey, that's crossing the line. Kelly is perfectly fine, my husband said, standing up for me. If she's fine, why can't she get pregnant? Women are supposed to have kids. I don't need to explain that to you. You can't say it because it would prove something's wrong with her. This man is hopeless, Jeremy said. Yes, he's beyond saving, my husband replied calmly. This man's name is Jeremy Clarkson, right? I understand, he's fired. Kelly, please contact HR. What? What are you saying? You think you can shock me with that? What company's president are you claiming to be? Are you trying to fool me with this obvious act? Are you stupid? Jeremy, my husband, is the president of the Brook Group. What? That can't be true. Jeremy exclaimed, but the driver nodded with a look of pity. Seriously? Is he really our president? Yes, and I am his wife and the vice president of our company. That's ridiculous. How could Kelly from a poor family end up as vice president with just a high school diploma? Those things don't matter. Whether someone graduated from high school or college doesn't determine their worth. That's ridiculous, Jeremy stammered. I will never forgive anyone who insults my wife, my husband said firmly. But there's a union. The union will protect us employees. You're a manager, right? Managers are not union members, so you are not protected by the union. Didn't you know that? Seriously. Well, you better prepare yourself. Since you insulted my wife, you must face the consequences. Jeremy looked stunned, but my husband didn't care and asked me if we should go. We left the table. That night, perhaps bothered by what happened, Jeremy called, but his tone was completely different from his arrogance earlier. Kelly, it's been a while. What do you mean? We already talked this afternoon, Jeremy. Ah yes, what can I do for you? Your dismissal hasn't been processed yet. Ah, you guys were just joking, right? About you being the vice president and your husband being the president? No, it's all true. I'm surprised you don't know who your own company's president and vice president are. But why would you be the vice president? Because the best way I can support my husband is by being in that position. But it's strange. Why would a high school graduate be the vice president? It's not strange at all. I only graduated high school because I wanted to start working early. But after we separated, I earned a college degree. Huh, really? Yes, there are schools you can attend from home. So you really are the president's wife? Yes. How did you manage to marry the president? When did you get married? We got married after I divorced you. I met the president soon after, and we dated for about 5 years before getting married. Married? Why would the president take an interest in someone like you? Stop being so rude. Oh, sorry. Connections are strange, aren't they? I just happened to meet the president. But even so, why would he marry someone broke like you? Is he a philanthropist? No one marries for charity. If he's not a philanthropist, did he marry you to make you his slave? Maybe today you got lucky and got taken to a fancy restaurant, But usually, you must be having plain meals and living a difficult life where you can't even buy what you like, right? Why would you think that? That's not true at all. You're the only one who would do such a thing. There's no way you could marry such a rich man. Why do you think so? Rich people have connections with politicians and other wealthy people. If a poorly raised woman like you shows up at their parties, it would embarrass the president. Or maybe he lets his mistress attend those instead. You're making wild assumptions. If you keep looking down on me like this, you'll truly regret it. I'm just concerned for you. A woman with a poor upbringing like you marrying a rich man like the president will only suffer. A regular employee's husband would suit you better. Marrying someone richer than me, you must be a foolish woman who can't see ahead. Who's the fool here? If you called just to say that, I'm hanging up. No, wait, I'm not trying to insult you. It's just true that you come from poverty, and that can't be helped. Thinking I'm looking down on you for that is completely wrong. You say I come from a poor family, but my father is wealthy. Your family is poorer than mine. I didn't mention it back then because of your pride, but your family home isn't even half the size of mine. Your father is just a department head, and you're still just a manager. That's not true. When I proposed to you, you were living in a small single-story house. That was because we were renovating our home at the time. We had stored all our belongings elsewhere, and it was just a temporary residence. There was no need to move to a big house. My mother said so. That can't be true. You don't have to believe it, but since the renovation is finished, even if you say you want to visit my parents' home, you've stubbornly refused to go again. I couldn't tell you the truth. Who would want to visit such a poor, run-down house? You really are hopeless. Then I'll send you a picture. This is my family home. You'll see from the picture. I sent a photo of a large mansion. That's my house. I lived there for a while after our divorce. What? That can't be true. It's true. If this is true, then why were you working as an office lady in a small company? If you're so rich, you wouldn't need to work. And if you did work, wouldn't it be at a large corporation? My father is the president of a major company. That company was a new one he started. When it was time to decide who would be the president, my brother was chosen for the role, so I volunteered to handle the administrative work. Now, that company has grown to the top of the industry. Is that true? Were you really so rich? Yes, this is the truth. This is the real me, the person you used to look down on. So that's why you could marry the president? That's not it. I met the president because we shared the same hobbies. We met through our interests and hit it off. He didn't know I was from a wealthy family, and I didn't know he was the president. So you're at the company where I work because of that. How long have you been at that company? I joined right after our divorce. I had a connection by chance. Why? When you were with me, you were just a clerk at your brother's company. After we divorced, you changed jobs. That's right. My brother's company grew a lot, and he told me it was time to do what I love. So I decided to pursue what I always wanted to do. Then, just as a senior position became vacant, they offered me the job. But at that stage, I still had no connection with the president. He was still someone high up, out of reach. I don't understand. How can you have connections like that? Do rich people just connect with other rich people? That's why I'm saying those things don't matter. It's your mindset that's holding you back as just a manager. I wonder why your wife hasn't gotten tired of you yet. She can't get tired of me. I'm supporting her. Keep up with that attitude, and you'll get what's coming to you. Anyway, that's the situation, so stop belittling me already. I wasn't trying to belittle you. I really thought you were poor. About that dismissal you mentioned this afternoon. Oh yes, your dismissal. After all the mocking you did, it's only natural you'd be fired. That would put me in a tough spot. Can you talk to the president so I don't get fired? What? You were just mocking me a lot, and now you're asking not to be dismissed? That's impossible. You know I have nothing but resentment towards you. Why? The fact that you don't think you're resented is truly surprising. What have I done to you? There's too much to even remember. It's that much. I bet your wife thinks the same as me. Why don't you ask her what she really thinks? Though I doubt she'll tell you. I only said those things because I thought you were poor. Why do you think I'm mocking you when I'm just being honest? Once words are spoken, they can't be taken back. You should understand that as an adult. I do understand that. Then you should understand why you're being dismissed, right? No, I don't understand at all. Please, I'll be in trouble if I'm fired. If it were just about this afternoon, the president might have overlooked it, but then you had to call and ask all these questions. My husband is here now, frowning. He really thinks you're hopeless. Maybe you should just give up. There's no saving you. No, if the president is right there, why can't you just say something? It's only natural for a husband and wife to be together. Besides, you didn't ask if someone was with me, did you? That's true, but you've made things worse for yourself. You mocked not just me, but my parents and my husband too. Look, I didn't think you'd get this angry. Please forgive me. If I had known you were wealthy, I wouldn't have said such mocking things. I won't say them again. Please forgive me. Just give up. I think your dismissal order will come down tomorrow. Wait, please. Jeremy's voice echoed on the other end of the phone, but I hung up and looked at my husband. The next day, Jeremy came to the president's office, looking pale with dark circles under his eyes. He seemed to be in really bad shape. I was in a meeting with my husband, the president, discussing business matters, but I was shocked by Jeremy's appearance. Jeremy, what's wrong? I'm very sorry. Jeremy apologized as he sat down on the spot. Jeremy, what are you doing? Please, please just don't fire me. What do you mean? My husband, the president, knew about the conversation from the previous day. He had guessed from my responses during the call, and I had told him everything Jeremy said after hanging up. As a result, his impression of Jeremy was very poor, and his anger was even greater than mine. I am truly sorry. I didn't know your wife was from a wealthy family. I think she is a perfect match for the president's wife. I also heard she graduated from university, even if it was through correspondence. She's a hard worker, unlike my own wife. So you decided she wasn't good enough for you and got rid of her, right? Jeremy looked up at the president, wondering how he knew such a thing. Of course, I've told my husband everything. We're married after all. Or do you and your wife not talk about your pasts? No, it's not like that. But that was a long time ago. I was young then. I thought Kelly was just a poor man's daughter, so I thought it was okay to have a mistress. How does it come to that? Is that why you think it's okay to commit sexual harassment or abuse your power? What do you mean? Don't tell me you haven't done it. There are complaints from your female coworkers. They say if our company doesn't handle it, they'll go to the police. Our company was just discussing what to do about it when your disrespectful remarks came yesterday. It's really hopeless, isn't it? That's right. I wouldn't have thought you were actually harassing or bullying, but after seeing you yesterday, it seems all too true. You don't even see women as people, do you? You think they're below you. No, I never. Even if that were true, firing me would be too harsh. Please show some mercy. Well, you do have a family. If you were fired, you wouldn't be the only one in trouble. That's right, exactly. My husband smirked and looked at me. So what do you think, Kelly? How about sending Jeremy to our Michigan? Wait, what? The Michigan is in a region with very few people and is practically unsustainable as a company. The former president, who came from that town, established the branch there to help the local people, but it's a lonely place with just one employee. The previous employee reportedly went mad from the loneliness. We want you to turn that branch around in 5 years. If you can do that, we'll bring you back here. Of course, if you can't, you'll spend your retirement in Michigan. Thank you, I appreciate it. Jeremy said, thinking it was an act of mercy from the president. He set off for the Michigan, but both my husband and I knew it was an impossible task. Working alone for a small number of town residents, it was clear there wouldn't be any profit to be made. Jeremy moved to the branch all motivated, taking his mistress, who had become his wife, with him. But she soon grew unhappy with the cold and isolation, and eventually she reached her limit. Jeremy's salary dropped significantly, and despite being called the branch manager, his pay was minimal. This led to daily arguments with his wife. Although he boasted that if he turned things around in 5 years, he could return to the head office, his city-bred wife didn't believe him. She left divorce papers behind and went back to the city. Jeremy tried his best for a year, but no matter how hard he worked, the population didn't grow, and no profits came. Eventually, he realized that no effort would change anything. In 2 days, he submitted his resignation. After leaving the company, Jeremy contacted his wife, but by then, she had found someone new. Not only was Jeremy ignored by her, but he was also beaten up by her new partner and ended up in the hospital. After being discharged, Jeremy looked for a job, but at his age, he found nothing and life became harder for him. He ended up living in a shabby, run-down apartment, and the only job he could find was as a nighttime store clerk. The man who had once boasted of graduating from a prestigious university now stood alone in a store at night. As for me, I continued to be cared for by my kind husband, enjoying another wonderful date this month. Marrying him changed my life so much, and I'm grateful that Jeremy and I divorced.